History is repeating for Bitcoin, and it's as easy as counting to 1 and 2 for finding that next major low, perhaps, for Bitcoin over this summer period. Anyways, before we get into this video, I do want to once again let you know that the signups for the school are going to be ending in just over 13 days now, with the first cohort beginning at that time. So you have about 2 weeks, a little bit less than 2 weeks to get in if you so desire. This is, again, a course created primarily for beginners, and if you are interested, you can follow the link in the description below. All right, sweet. Let's jump right into this one, starting off with the content of the day. And again, it's as easy as counting to 1 and 2. Great YouTube clickbait content, but there actually perhaps is something to this. So why am I highlighting this particular area right here? This is actually from the year 2020, before Bitcoin's last macro breakout, where you do see Bitcoin spent about a couple months consolidating just below the prior all-time high, which is represented by this red horizontal line, as you can see right here. The lines are doing it. And as you can see, Bitcoin tests back into that region, boom, comes down, sets in a low, then sets in a higher low, and then a big bad breakout. If we go to the cycle prior to that in 2017, we actually see something relatively similar again. Here is the red line of death, and Bitcoin comes down, sets in a major low, sets in a actually decently higher low right there, and then breaks out. In fact, this particular case right here is very much at the moment similar to what we're looking at on current price action for Bitcoin, with that first sort of 1, 2, 3 down, boom, up, higher low, breakout. And then of course we go back to cycles prior than that. We can go back to 2012/2013. Again, Bitcoin retesting the high, comes down very quickly, sets in a low, sets in a higher low, and then boom, upwards and onwards. And then yes, indeed, we can actually go all the way back to this cycle as well, beginning in topping out in 2011. And it's actually not super visible on a daily time frame, but if we do go down to a very, very low term time frame, which is actually going to take me some time to do, so I'm not going to do it on this particular video, you'll see kind of the same thing, just on a lower term time frame schedule there. So compare all of that with what Bitcoin is doing as of right now. Again, Bitcoin seemingly set in this first major low right here. And the real question is, where does the next higher low come in around as we wait for number two? Number two, who do you work for, number two? and in this case, again, Bitcoin can come very easily down into the low $60,000 territory and still remain in a higher low posturing. So that's kind of what's at stake as of right now. Long term, I still do believe that Bitcoin continues upwards and onwards to, well, in this case, the upside. But in the short term, short, medium term here, probably most of summer, we're going to see Bitcoin fill out this space and kind of prepare for that next major move. I suspect beginning around end of summer at this moment. The reason why I say that is because last Friday's rejection was very, very important for the sort of short, medium term for Bitcoin, meaning that rejection there did imply that Bitcoin Bullahs that was their chance. That was their chance in the short term. Failing to break out last Friday does imply that we're going to spend probably most of summer consolidating, which probably means that this cycle does get elongated a bit. Anyways, moving on from there, I do want to get into the daily statistics. Of course, today is Friday. Friday does have a very slight higher probability to close negatively than positively if we look at all of the closures beginning in 2024. And more specific here and more important here, we do see that the average gain versus average loss, which once again played out yesterday very, very well, is going to be rather enlightening. So looking at the average loss at 2.37% versus the average gain at 2.27%, it's very, it's very even right there between the two. And we can come up with yet another range. And this one's actually incredibly telling, in my opinion, if we are going to see an actual breakdown like now. To the upside, that would kind of give an upper boundary, basically around yesterday's high, somewhere around, low $68,000 territory if Bitcoin were to get there. By the same token, if Bitcoin were to take the downside of that trajectory, then we're probably looking somewhere down around about 65,200. So new lows on this week, and actually below the lows of the last prior couple weeks. So if the downside of this were to happen, which technically speaking is slightly more likely here, that's going to have major implications for the short term, thus confirming continuation to the downside, likely, preceding the next, that next try towards the next major low. So I do believe that this next major opportunity for the long term is probably happening very soon, actually. So hopefully that can be of some consolation on the other side. We can also go over here to our other charts and again follow up on the 2-day, 3-day, 5-day weekly signal, of which the 3-day signal did confirm last night upon closure. Bearish divergence indeed confirmed right there, and you can see that that's also going to be potentially spilling on over into the 5-day in the weekly time frame today, which closes for CME, of course, which will have a phantom drive of bearish divergence, as you can see on this last little proverbial high, assuming that Bitcoin basically closes anywhere below 68,000 bucks would do it for me. Again, that'd probably be a setup for this next early week to come, but it would suggest that short-term downside extremely, extremely likely here. Again, whenever I see a sort of phantom drive like this, a drive of divergence that goes through an actual, another high, these are not like the death sentences that bearish divergence can sometimes be, in a general move. These are typically range plays, is what I see. But again, for reference, Bitcoin can come all the way down to 61,000 bucks and still be on a higher low as far as the long term does go. So, a lot likely to be decided, I suspect, on tonight's closure, really confirming the next sort of move to the downside, or in the very, in my opinion, in the less likely scenario, if we were to see Bitcoin pop back up today and play out the average move to the upside, or basically just try anywhere above yesterday's high, which is low $68,000, or actually, sorry, mid $68,000 territory, especially if it closed above there, that would be a good indication that Bitcoin actually, it might do what I think is incredibly unlikely here, but it might put in a base just above, this last $66,000 tick that we did see yesterday. So, assuming that doesn't happen, which I do think, again, is rather unlikely, we're probably looking lower. Again, stochastic momentum continues on basically all time frames to do what we have been looking for, which is more downside. The downside pivots are actually getting more aggressive, I would say, as well. The daily time frame is now pivoted at 70,200, meaning that momentum remains to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below there for this next day. Also, what should be known about the daily time frame is that this trendline regression coming in from the last 3 major lows here is very likely going to be broken on tonight's closure on CME, assuming price closes, anywhere here or lower, which does indicate that this, this sort of prior relationship is now nullified and we have something new going on, which again would be very, very indicative that Bitcoin does continue on to the downside here. 2-day time frame is going to be having a fresh cross to the downside, did confirm last night a fresh cross to the downside, and will be remaining with downside momentum as long as Bitcoin's below 70,400. The 3-day time frame, which closed also last night as well, is also showing downside momentum as long as Bitcoin's below 68,400. Again, that'd be kind of my short-term area that if Bitcoin were to reclaim, I guess the hopium for the short-term upside once again becomes relevant. I think this is very unlikely, but as always, there needs to be some sort of tangible means of invalidating, the more likely scenario in this case. But yeah, as of right now, positioned certainly to the downside. And then the 5-day and the weekly, which are closing tonight for CME, are going to be very likely opening up next week down as well. So 67,800 is the pivot for the 5-day. The weekly pivot is 67 actually, which Bitcoin's on CME is actually a hair above as of right now. So possible. I suppose that would keep open a little bit of hopium, but again, assuming that all of those things do close below those pivots on tonight's closure, very likely next week we do see that leg down, if not maybe it even starts today. I mean, that's very possible, at least like a move down to 65,000 bucks or somewhere around there. So, this is coming into fruition. Yeah. Today, Friday to Monday. Obviously CME does not trade over the weekend. So, maybe there's a gap over the weekend, who knows? But ultimately, we'd be expecting that to really, find the move probably next week. Anyways, yes, so we spoke about that. Downside more likely. The question is, how far down? Where are the areas of interest to the downside? We've been pointing at this chart for a while now. The 2-day time frame, or it doesn't even really matter what time frame it is, but I'm just looking at a Fibonacci retracement here, and basically anywhere let me actually get this. Do I have this properly here? No, I do not, because it's not, I didn't make it on this this particular chart. But likely anywhere between the 50% level and the 618 Fibonacci retracement here, which gives a range between about 62,500 to 64,500 bucks. I do think would be kind of fair game. Maybe it goes a little bit under, maybe it goes, maybe it overshoots a little bit, completely fine, but likely somewhere within this region here. Don't think that Bitcoin's going to make new lows below the May lows. I think that and if it did, I mean, that would be very worrying. I don't think that's what's happening. I do think it's going to be kind of like a sideways and down move into here. Going to be relatively boring. That's kind of what you want to see. And then, perhaps we see another bounce, probably in July, I guess. Yeah. I mean, it's only like 2 weeks away anyways. So I think that is pretty much everything that I wanted to speak about here. Of course, Bitcoin CME 5-day time frame is going to have a chance to break below the median. Technically speaking, the 38.2 level is all the way down at 59,000 bucks. So there would be risks there. I do think that this range probably steps up coming into next week's open. Maybe bring it into the low 60s. Again, that'd be good confluence for a likely higher low in that region. But yeah, I think that's probably a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. Again, just a quick reminder, the crypto school signups here going for the next 13 days, 6 hours, 38 minutes and 15 seconds and counting. Holy shit, it's going down fast. It's going down faster and faster and faster. There are limited spaces. This is the first cohort. First cohort is kind of like a trial run, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe there'll be a second one, maybe there won't, who knows? But basically it's just my philosophy on price action, and then I give you sort of my, I guess, template that you can iterate off of. And the main purpose of this program is to answer that question, or not to necessarily answer that question, but to never have the question of, what do I do? I'm in a position. Should I buy or sell? Should I short it? Long? Buy? Question mark, question mark. I fucking hate that shit. When you have an actual system, you'll never be asking yourself that question because you've already defined it pre-entry. So you know exactly what to look for. The real skill, or it's not the skill, but the real hard work is done in actually strategy creation. So that's the purpose of that. Again, it's more beginner focused. So if you've been watching this content for a very, very long time, you probably know most of the content, but this is obviously presented in a textbook way, sort of way. So like it flows from one concept to the other. It's like put together in that very particular way. Crypto Band has actually done or it's technically not Crypto Band, it's Crypto School has done a really, really good job, with having like professional animations and whatnot done. So that I think that can kind of enhance the experience. But yeah, we'll end things right there. As always, I want to wish you the best. Be back tomorrow. And yeah, as always, wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.